Hello there, and welcome to In My Opinion 4, Code Vein.
In this land of ruin, there are these beings called revenants who thirst for blood, can't die, and whenever they are taken down, they lose some of their memories. You awaken as one and find yourself on the lap of a mysterious girl in white, and then proceed to get captured and forced into labor to gather the food source known as blood beads. Things don't go too well, and you eventually run into Louis, who helps you out and brings you back to his hideout and gives you the gist of things. The land is cut off from the outside world by a red mist that no one can pass, and with humans being put under protections from certain revenants who want to just suck them dry, the only choice is to find blood beads or eventually fall into madness and become creatures known as the Lost. Louis notices that you can clear away a little of the mist and make blood springs bloom, so he has asked for your help to not only make more blood springs as the recent amount has been dwindling, but to find the main source of it all so no one will have to suffer and live in fear any longer. So yeah, that's the basic sum up, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. The more I played, the more I found myself wanting to learn more about what exactly was going on. And to the game's credit, it does touch on most of everything, leaving you satisfied. Of course, this is if you get the best ending. Yes, there are 3 different endings, technically 4, but thankfully to get the best ending is not a pain in the ass. There is a good amount of lore for this world that you will find through memories, loading screen info, and by just simply playing through the game. What also helps is the cast of characters come off as pretty likable and do have some cool moments. As you play, you start to learn about their past, such as Yakumo being a soldier and about his comrades. They even give some development to some of the NPC characters like Coco. This helps these characters stand out a little more. Of course, with one of the biggest features being create a character, you're probably wondering if your character is just lost in the background with rare acknowledgement, and the answer is no. Your character is actually very important to the story and gets plenty of time during cutscenes, and even takes part in some of the action, which is just fantastic. Though heads up, your characters are mute, so no speaking lines for them. This is an action JRPG, but the easiest way to describe the type of gameplay it has is to compare it to the Souls games, a la Demon Souls and Dark Souls, just with an AI partner who can patch you up and defend you when needed. The combat's all about timing and learning from your mistakes, as depending on the enemy, only a very few hits can mean your death. At first, you're given at least 3 doses of regeneration to heal yourself, but as you explore and find items, the game will up that amount and even make it more effective. During combat, you also have a stamina meter to keep your eye on, which drains pretty much after every action besides just walking and climbing. And if it drains completely, the only thing you can really do is move around until it fills up once again. Taking a certain amount of damage leads to a focus mode, which for a limited time helps you not stagger, make staggering the enemies easier, fills up your stamina right away, and finally lets you launch the enemy into the air and do an attack. Though watch out, as the enemy can get into this state as well. If you do kick the bucket while out in the field, you will respawn at a missile route. These missiles are spread across the map, and not only do they give you a place to respawn, you can also use them to teleport between any of the areas, show a more clearer picture of the map, and fully heal and restock your items. However, doing this does restore the enemies back to life, so you gotta kill them all over again. You also might have noticed when you're killing enemies, you gain a little something called haze, which is really important in this game as it basically acts as your currency for everything. For example, while resting at a missile, you can use haze to level up, which increases your health, stamina, and attack power. Just remember, if you die, you lose all your current haze, but the game does give you a chance to pick it up again at the spot you were killed. Though if you die before getting it, then you lose that amount of haze forever. There are 5 different types of weapons at your disposal, from a big old sword to a halberd, and you're allowed to change them whenever you like, and even quick select between 2 of them. Right there with your weapons, you have your armor, which are fancy coats and jackets. These, like the weapons, have their own stats, so some can be better at buffing certain magical abilities or offering better resistance for certain type of attacks. They also come in handy since while attacking with them, yes, you can attack with your armor, or performing a backstab which triggers a special attack, can temporarily raise your Ichor, which is basically your MP, until you rest at a missile, which it then resets. You can also regain Ichor just by hitting the enemy or using an item. Now let's talk about one of the most important things: blood codes. Think of these as your classes. Each code has a specific set of gifts, which are basically skills, and stats, so one might be more suited for going in head on but starts off with low Ichor, or another might be better at offensive magic attacks but don't offer the same amount of physical punch as the others. You're allowed to change to any of these on the fly and even set up what gifts you want for each code, so you don't have to keep switching them around each time you switch. The game lets you have up to 8 active gifts at a time, and 4 passive ones, and you can mix and match gifts from different blood codes. You just gotta level them up, which is pretty simple since all you have to do is equip the gift and kill enemies. And if it takes too long, there are items you can find to level them up in one shot. The gifts can be things like physical attacks, magical attacks, buffs, etc. However, some of these blood codes won't let you use certain gifts, and certain weapons will become useless in the fight because of their stats, which is indicated by the big red line. You won't be able to get all blood codes in one shot since some are tied to certain ending routes. I freaking love the combat and just how flexible it is. Each of the weapon types do feel different from one another, so pick what you feel more comfortable with. I've heard some say the combat itself feels weightless, but I gotta disagree, especially when you whack an enemy so hard they stagger. I also like the little extra flair they gave combat with the backstabbing animations, and how there are at least 4 different animations that can happen depending on what you're wearing. The fact that lets you switch up your blood codes and customize them for the most part whenever you like is great, as it lets you fully explore each and every code you get, helping you pick the one that fits your general playstyle, or maybe if you feel like you need to switch it up for certain bosses. The battles you run into do offer a good challenge, especially the boss battles, which is where the game really tests your skills, as they are not pushovers, and once you take them down you get a great sense of satisfaction. Most importantly, I never felt cheated when I died. To be honest, the only time I ever felt the game was being a bit unfair was when the loss triggered an invaded situation, where for a short while constant enemies bombard you until you wipe them all out. It just didn't feel like the game was trying to be challenging at these points. Luckily, these only happen in a set spot on the map, and you can just ignore them if you don't care for the goodies they may give you, which most of the time is stuff you can buy or just find laying around. One way to unlock blood codes is just by progressing through the story and talking to your comrades in your hangout, though the way you'll be unlocking most codes and gifts is by finding vestiges that are just lying around the world. Finding these also helps you learn more about the world and the characters, as each vestige is a piece of a memory. These play out with you walking and experiencing the character's past with a pretty neat visual layout. I got addicted to seeing them, and even if they weren't needed for combat reasons, I feel like I would still go out and collect them all. I just found the stories engrossing, wanting to learn more and more about these characters and their experiences in this world, even if it can be a bit sad. And mind you, some of these are characters you never see in the game, yet it still made me care. The game does let you know what vestige you need in order to play out a memory, and some are even connected to one another, which lets you know if a memory will add a little more detail to a certain character. You don't have to worry either, as none of them are missable and can be picked up whenever you like, though it still may be wise to pick them up, especially before a boss. All you need to do to play them out is go to EO to restore them. One thing I did hate is none of these are replayable, so once you see them, that's it, which is pretty damn annoying, made me hold back on seeing some and saving them for later, since I wanted to see the narrative flow in one shot. Since I mentioned the hangout, I might as well touch on that. Before you go out to the world, you will be at your main base, and while here, you can do a few things. You can talk to the other characters and hear what they have to say, and they can even accept valuables which you can find laying around the world or buy them from a shop that's outside as well. Doing this unlocks points for the character, letting you receive items such as crafting materials and weapons. Just a heads up, some characters like certain valuables more than others. You also have a shop within the base where you can buy stuff from Coco like healing items and even crafting materials, which comes to the next part of the base, which is the upgrading station ran by Ren. Here is where you can upgrade all your weapons and armor, you just need to be sure you have the right material. You can also add a special element to your weapon like permanent fire or venom and so forth. This can be done with your armor as well, giving them greater resistance. If you goof up and add one you don't like, you can turn the weapon or armor back to normal. Of course, all this costs haze, which I mentioned before is this game's currency. While here, there's also a spa room that you can enter, which gives you a very brief summary of each cutscene event. It also has the lore bits you see during the loading screens in case you missed out on reading those. It really sucks the game doesn't let you rewatch any of the cutscenes, as the brief summaries I mentioned are severely lacking. The spa also comes in handy if you lose some haze, and it's in a spot that you feel like you can't get to and survive. So instead of losing all of it, you have the option to at least collect half of it. As I mentioned, you do play as your own created character, and the create a character feature is just simply fantastic. I've seen some really awesome characters people have made online, and the main limitation is your own creativity. What's great is if you want to change your look while playing, all you need to do is simply go to the mirror at the base. You can also change into any character you have made and saved. So if you want to go from male to female, you can. Just make a new character, save it, then go back to your file and load said character up. I'm happy we got a map for this game, since certain areas are pretty damn big and would become frustrating without it. They even added dots while you walk around to show you the ground you've covered. Even your AI partner helps out a bit with navigation by giving comments like, hey, we haven't been here yet. While there are some paths that are kind of hidden, everything I just mentioned makes exploration a stress-free affair. You're also given a percentage of how much you explored if you're wondering if you indeed search every nook and cranny. There's even new paths you can open that make traveling back and forth much faster. Some of the areas also have a gimmick, be it burning you slowly on certain parts of the map, death falls, or draining some MP. I personally didn't find these really annoying as others may have, since it never feels like overkill. While out in the field you can run into little side quests for NPCs that usually pop up after you clear the boss for that spot. You don't have to look hard either, as the map itself shows exactly where NPC is if they have some sort of mission for you to complete, and the objective will show up as well as an X on the map. However, it may not be in the same area you get the mission in, so be sure to look around. The missions themselves are usually kill this or find that, and while there is some semblance of a story to some of these side quests, they're just okay. You're mainly doing these for the rewards, which can lead to a new map for the depths. The depths are another part of the game which can be accessed by talking to Davis at the base. These are optional dungeons that you can tackle anytime you want, and all you gotta do is unlock them by completing side quests or exploring the world and just finding them. Some can be incredibly easy depending the level you're on, but the later ones will still give you a bit of a challenge. Each dungeon has a few boss battles you must take down to complete them, and after clearing them out you can tackle them over and over again if you want to. These add some more content to the game and turn out to be pretty dang fun and helpful if you're looking for certain materials. There is a multiplayer option for the game which is available when you turn on the online function. With this, you can either ask for help or join someone else asking for some assistance. Looking for others to help is pretty easy. Just enter the menu and ask to look for a distress signal. This will send you to someone no matter what area you're in. You can only ask for help if either you have yet to defeat the boss in one of the areas or are in the depths. Just be mindful, if you're assisting someone, you're only allowed to pick up monster droppings and earn some haze, and that's it. Also, since it's their game you're helping with, the story cutscenes will only show them and your player level will be the same as the host, so you can't come in as a beast. If you die while helping, don't worry, you won't lose the haze you came in with. Instead, you will just be sent back to whatever was the last missile you touched. And the same happens if you succeed, the only difference being you get to keep the haze you earned during the multiplayer. For every boss you take down together, you get a medal which levels up your online rank, which gives you new titles and pictures you can put on your card. Most of my time online was pretty good, as it wasn't a lag fest for each game I joined, only some. I like how easy the process was, and you can even make sure to find a friend by customizing the search options with a code. As mentioned before, and clearly going by all the footage, there is an AI partner with you. The AI itself isn't bad at all, as they don't feel like a hindrance and actually have saved my ass a few times when I really needed it. They also can't fall to their death, so no worries about them aimlessly wandering off. I also like that they are not just robots and have personalities, even commenting on your surroundings and pointing out goodies to pick up. You will be able to choose from 6 or 5 different AI partners depending on the indie route you take. Each have their own playstyle, like Mia taking shots from the back or Yakumo being a tank and swinging his big old sword. You can switch out the characters at the base or at a missile. If you're not interested in using an AI partner, you don't have to, you can just go solo. The nickname of anime Souls-like is rather fitting for this game, as it does have an anime visual style. This isn't a knock against the game, as it does look great. Each character has a distinct look to them and is pretty detailed. Even the characters who don't go out in the field like Coco and Rin look up to par with the rest. Also boobs. Lots and lots of boobs, which ain't a bad thing at all. The areas themselves look visually pleasing as well, and they don't come off as samey. In fact, there's only one area they sort of reuse, but that has to do with the story. When you go into a new area, you run into at least 2 new creatures each time, helping with the enemy diversity, and it's not till near the end game when it stops adding new faces. As I mentioned, the bosses are fun to fight, but they are also rather creative looking, making you look forward to seeing the next one. I know I don't comment much on music, but I do have to say the musical track during the Vestige walk is really good, as it complements each moment nicely.
Fine. Here you are. That's everything. And I don't take refunds, alright?
That Coco. So that's what that no refunds business was about.
The English voice actors do a fantastic job with everyone fitting their roles perfectly. And if you're not a fan of English voice acting, there is an option for the Japanese audio. The game does have some clipping issues when it comes to hair, but it's not super noticeable. The framing also kind of hitches when you're transitioning to a new area by walking, but you never fight anything during this, so it's not a huge problem. Besides these things, I never really ran into any major technical issues through my entire playthrough.
I see. So that's our ticket. Hey, are you sure you should be up and about?
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry for causing you so much trouble. I'm fine now. I hope I'll get a chance to repay you.
That information is more than enough.
There might be some that call this just another run-of-the-mill Souls-like clone, but I really feel like it does enough different things to make it stand out. I loved every moment of this game. The combat is enjoyable and flexible, the story and world itself is interesting, and it has a cast of characters you don't mind sticking around with and learning more about. By the 40-hour mark, I collected all the vestiges, explored most of the depths, did some of the side quests, and beaten the game. If you forget to do anything, don't worry, as the game lets you load up right before the final boss. Replayability comes from doing cleanup, getting the other endings, and in the New Game Plus option, which lets you bring over pretty much everything. New Game Plus does increase its difficulty each time you beat the game, but if you want to, you can just set it back to the original difficulty. So yeah, there is a good amount of content here. I think this game kind of finds a happy medium, since even if you're new to the genre and have been iffy on dipping your toes in, or have been playing Souls-like games for a bit, you will end up having fun. So quickly inject this into your veins. You won't regret it. I hope you enjoy my thoughts on this game, and for gamer's sake, keep gaming.